Hi, everybody. Happy November. I'm back again with some questions and answers. First, I'd like to do what we call housekeeping. It's NaNoWriMo, so as you watch this, I'm probably writing my at least 1,700 words a day to try to get a 50,000 word novel out. This month's novel is Free Wrench 3, which right now I'm calling Ickerwell. That might change. Also, as you watch this, if you're watching this at any point near its release, the D'Karon Apprentice, the next book in the Book of Deacon series, has been released on iBooks, and as I speak, it is number 12 in sci-fi and fantasy. It went as high as 7. So I'm very pleased with how it's doing, and I hope people are as pleased with how it reads as I am with how it's being read. But with that out of the way, oh, and don't worry if you don't use iBooks. November 10th, so a little bit less than a week from today, um, you will be able to buy it on any of the places my books are usually sold. And if you've pre-ordered on any of those places, your book will be available on November 10th. So, on to the questions. All three of these questions come from Mexi. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. I realize I've never actually heard the name said out loud. The first question: do you know the end of your stories before you get started? Broadly speaking, I do. I usually have like A, B, and C. I know where it's going to start, I know how it's going to end, and then I know roughly the avenue it'll take toward it. And depending on which book it is, sometimes I'll write a detailed outline and then work off the outline. That's what I tried to do for Free Wrench 3, but it's not as detailed as I would have liked. Other times, I will go very much by the seat of my pants for the intermediate portions, and that tends to create a much longer story. And even in stories where I'm pretty sure I know how it's going to end, I often veer off as the story develops. I'll either think of a better ending, or I'll discover that as the story has flowed, that ending doesn't make sense anymore. But the ending is usually the second or third thing I think of, so it's pre-planned in almost every case. Question number 2: do you make us cry on purpose? Um, I don't make you cry on purpose, but I try to make people feel. I think that's important, and crying is a very severe version of feeling. If it's any consolation, I often cry while I'm writing scenes these days. I don't didn't do that in the beginning, but it's happened multiple times in the past year where I'll tear up while I'm writing a scene. So I literally feel your pain with this sort of thing. I don't try to write tear jerkers, but I do try to write good characters, and when bad things happen to people that you care about, even if they're fictional, sometimes it affects you. It certainly affects me. So I apologize for any tears, but I hope that there's a few happy ones to offset. And finally, are any of your traits portrayed in a character? Yes. In fact, it'd be more accurate to ask, are there any characters that don't portray any of your traits? There's a little bit of Joe in almost every character I write, some more than others. Deacon of the Book of Deacon series has got an awful lot of Joe in him. And Carter from the Big Sigma series has probably more Joe than I would care to admit, because, he's a semi-murderous sociopath scientist. I do have a degree hanging on the wall right there. So I'm an engineer, not a scientist, like Carter. If you were to take the good qualities of Deacon and the bad qualities of Carter and combine them into one person, you'd more or less get me. So, but every single one of my characters, all of the voices are going on in my head. So what you see is at least part Joe. And that pretty much covers the questions I got this week. If you have any questions you'd like me to answer, put them in the comments, and I will attempt to answer them next week if I get enough. If I don't get enough, well, you'll probably see my face one of these days. Until then, have a happy week, and I hope you all enjoy the D'Karon Apprentice. Thank you very much.